Right now, the entire cryptocurrency market is under pressure, and it feels like we're in the middle of one of those moments that test every investor's patience and belief. Prices are falling, charts are red, and the noise of panic is getting louder by the day. But sometimes the biggest opportunities in crypto appear when everything looks like it's falling apart. That's why in today's video, we're going to break down the current XRP price levels that absolutely must hold if this bull market is going to stay alive. We'll also take a closer look at the latest Ripple Swell updates that are circulating behind the scenes, news that hasn't yet made its way into mainstream headlines, but could be extremely important for XRP's next big move. So make sure to stay tuned until the end, because what's coming out of Ripple's Swell conference could change the narrative completely. Welcome to Hudson XRP News, the channel where we bring you straightforward analysis, real insights, and professional breakdowns of everything happening in the XRP ecosystem. If you're passionate about understanding the market beyond the noise and staying ahead of the trends that really matter, you're in the right place. Before we jump deep into this analysis, a quick reminder: if you find value in these updates, please make sure to like this video and subscribe. It helps us a lot more than you might think and allows this channel to keep growing and reaching more XRP holders around the world. Your support truly keeps this channel going, and I can't thank you enough for being part of this amazing community. Now let's get into what's really going on with XRP right now. When we zoom in on the charts, it becomes clear that XRP is sitting in what traders often call an accumulation zone. This simply means the price is moving sideways within a defined range after a big decline, and smart money, large holders, long-term investors, and institutions tend to buy quietly during these stages. The script mentions that XRP is currently trading between strong support and descending resistance lines, a pattern we've seen many times before in XRP's history. The market seems to be testing these lower levels, bouncing slightly off what appears to be a crucial support area around the $2.10 mark. While that number is symbolic more than anything right now, the psychology behind it matters. This is where many investors will decide whether to stay confident or panic sell. The important thing to understand is that this kind of sideways movement doesn't mean XRP is failing. In fact, historically, these consolidation zones have often come right before major breakouts. The reason is simple. Once the weak hands exit and the market shakes out short-term traders, the remaining holders are the ones who truly believe in the asset's long-term value. The script correctly highlights that XRP has been stuck under a descending resistance line for quite some time, but that's not a new story. We've seen this same setup in the past, where XRP was repeatedly pushed down before suddenly breaking out in a big upward move. That's exactly why it's too early to panic. Of course, it's easy to feel frustrated when bullish news doesn't immediately translate to higher prices, but as this analysis points out, the crypto market is far from rational at the moment. It's algorithm-driven and heavily influenced by Bitcoin's price action. When Bitcoin drops, the rest of the market follows, often exaggeratedly. XRP isn't being singled out. It's simply being pulled down by a broader correction. And the reality is that most of the leverage and speculative excess have already been flushed out of the market, which actually reduces the risk of a deeper crash. So, in short, what we're witnessing right now isn't the end of the XRP bull market, it's a test of conviction. These are the times that separate emotional traders from informed investors. And as we dive deeper in the next parts of this breakdown, we'll explore not just the technical side of XRP's price action, but also the bigger story unfolding behind the scenes that could explain why Ripple's upcoming moves might shift the balance for XRP holders globally. As we move further into the technical picture, it's clear that XRP's recent price activity is reflecting a mix of market psychology and external pressure from the wider crypto landscape. The script points out that XRP tried several times to break out of the descending resistance but couldn't maintain its momentum. This shows that even though buyers are stepping in, there's still enough selling pressure from short-term traders and automated systems to keep the price capped. The multiple failed breakouts can look discouraging, but it's important to recognize what's really happening behind the scenes. These repeated attempts often weaken resistance levels over time. Each time XRP hits that same ceiling, more sellers get exhausted, and when that final breakout comes, it usually carries significant power. The mention of XRP rebounding slightly from around the 2.10 mark also carries weight. This level has become a symbolic line in the sand for many traders. Historically, when XRP has approached similar key levels, it's triggered either panic selling or massive buying, depending on overall market sentiment. In this case, the rebound suggests that buyers still have conviction and are defending their positions. It's a healthy sign that confidence isn't completely lost, even in a market filled with fear. What's happening now is consolidation. And while that can feel slow and frustrating, it's often the phase that builds the foundation for the next upward move. The script also highlights that this decline isn't specific to XRP, but part of a much larger market correction. Bitcoin's downward momentum has created a chain reaction across the altcoin sector. When Bitcoin falls by 3%, algorithms automatically push altcoins like XRP down even further. This is how most of the crypto market operates today, heavily automated and reactive rather than logical or fundamentals driven. It's a system designed to amplify moves in both directions, which is why we often see sudden sharp drops followed by equally fast recoveries. The analysis correctly points out that we're not dealing with the same kind of crash we saw in previous cycles. Much of the excess leverage and speculation have already been flushed out, meaning there's less fuel left for another extreme drop. Another key insight from the script is the idea that the crypto market lacks sophistication and understanding. Despite all the technological progress, most mainstream investors still treat cryptocurrencies as a single high-risk category without truly understanding what makes each project different. XRP's technology, use case, and real-world partnerships separate it from the average token, but the market often fails to see that. This misunderstanding creates opportunities for long-term investors who can see beyond short-term noise. When everyone else panics because crypto is down, those who understand XRP's actual utility are able to accumulate more at undervalued levels. What's particularly interesting is how the script connects the current market situation to broader macroeconomic events. Things like the US government shutdown, tariff discussions, and uncertainty around Federal Reserve policies are affecting investor sentiment. While these may seem unrelated to XRP at first glance, they play a huge role in shaping the overall risk environment. When people feel uncertain about traditional markets, they often pull back from all kinds of risk assets, and crypto is one of the first areas they step away from. However, as the script smartly notes, these very same issues could turn into bullish catalysts for XRP in the long run. For example, tariffs and financial tensions between countries only increase the need for a neutral settlement asset, something that can bridge cross-border payments without political interference. That's exactly where XRP shines. As global fragmentation grows, the demand for a neutral digital bridge currency will only get stronger. The irony is that what looks like a bearish macro environment could actually be setting the stage for XRP's greatest use case to come alive. The world's financial systems are being pushed to rethink how they move money, and every time there's friction, there's a greater case for Ripple's technology. So while traders might be staring at charts and worrying about short-term dips, the deeper story here is much bigger. We're watching the market mature in real time. The volatility we see today is simply part of the process of moving from speculation to utility. In this transitional phase, patience and perspective become the most valuable assets an investor can have. The smart money isn't running, it's watching, waiting, and positioning for the moment when the broader market finally recognizes XRP's real value. Now, as we move deeper into this analysis, one of the most powerful parts of the script is how it shifts from short-term fear to long-term logic. The message here is clear. While many traders are caught up in daily price movements, they are missing the bigger structural changes that are quietly unfolding. The idea that XRP is a global asset isn't just a catchy phrase, it's the foundation of why this digital currency matters at all. Unlike other cryptocurrencies that depend mostly on hype or community sentiment, XRP's value comes from its role in bridging global liquidity. The moment the world realizes that international settlements and cross-border payments can be made faster, cheaper, and more securely through the XRP ledger, the narrative around it will shift completely. The script makes an excellent point about how geopolitical tension, trade tariffs, and financial division among countries could actually turn out to be bullish for XRP. That's because when global systems stop trusting each other, they need something neutral, something that doesn't belong to any one nation or government. XRP is built exactly for that. When a country wants to transact with another but doesn't want to rely on the US dollar or a politically influenced payment system, a neutral bridge currency becomes the only real option. Ripple has been quietly building the infrastructure for this reality for years through partnerships, pilot programs, and the expansion of RippleNet. Each new connection brings more liquidity to the XRP ecosystem, even if the price doesn't immediately reflect it. It's also worth noting that the script draws a direct comparison between trust and necessity. The less trust that exists between global powers, the more valuable XRP becomes as a neutral medium of exchange. This kind of thinking separates those who truly understand macroeconomics from those who just follow price charts. If every country wants to maintain control of its own monetary policy but still participate in global trade, they will eventually need a neutral system of value transfer. And that's where XRP fits perfectly. Ripple has always positioned XRP as a solution to a problem that becomes more urgent the more divided the world economy becomes. However, the market isn't mature enough yet to fully appreciate this. The script rightly says that the crypto space is still unsophisticated. Investors lump all tokens into the same category. Bitcoin, meme coins, utility tokens, all treated as risk assets that move together. This lack of education is a massive reason why XRP's true potential hasn't been priced in yet. Just as the early internet era had investors who couldn't tell the difference between revolutionary tech companies like Amazon and short-lived gimmicks like pets.com, the crypto market is going through that same stage now. History is repeating itself. It's a phase of misunderstanding that always precedes adoption. Another critical insight here is about market behavior and how irrational it can be. The script reminds us that sophisticated understanding comes later, after the infrastructure is built, after the partnerships are signed, and after the results are undeniable. Until that happens, the market reacts emotionally, selling off assets it doesn't fully understand. That's why XRP can announce partnerships with central banks or financial institutions and still not see a massive price spike right away. The investors controlling large portions of this market aren't necessarily thinking about fundamentals, they're reacting to signals from Bitcoin's chart or macroeconomic headlines. But here's the truth that many overlook. Once the market evolves and gains the ability to separate hype from utility, XRP's underlying fundamentals will become impossible to ignore. Every announcement Ripple makes today, whether it's about central bank integration, liquidity hubs, or on-demand liquidity expansion, plants a seed for future value recognition. Those who understand the depth of this development phase know that we're still early. Just as the internet took years to be understood for what it truly was, blockchain technology and XRP's role within it will take time for the world to fully grasp. The important takeaway for XRP holders is patience. You can't expect a market that hasn't yet matured to reward long-term utility overnight. But history shows us what happens when utility finally meets recognition. Just like Tesla was dismissed when the SEC went after Elon Musk, or when NVIDIA was doubted before the AI revolution exploded, XRP is currently being misunderstood. Yet every misunderstanding presents an opportunity for those who see the truth earlier than the rest. So when the market appears disconnected from fundamentals, that's often a sign that value is building quietly underneath. The moment investors finally understand what Ripple has built and what XRP truly represents, the same market that ignored it will rush to catch up. And by that time, those who were patient and consistent will already be positioned for the shift that others will only start noticing. As we continue analyzing this, one of the most important lessons from the script is that timing and understanding go hand in hand in the world of investing. The speaker points out that right now we are in a market phase where people haven't yet wrapped their heads around the real fundamentals of XRP. And that's exactly why we're not seeing immediate reactions to bullish news. The crypto market is still at a stage where investors are driven by sentiment rather than logic. When Bitcoin goes down, everything goes down with it, not because of any connection in utility, but simply because algorithms and large funds treat the entire market as one basket. This lack of separation creates both frustration and opportunity. For those who only look at short-term prices, it feels hopeless. But for those who understand what's happening underneath, this is where fortunes are built quietly and patiently. The script cleverly compares this stage of crypto to the early internet era, when people couldn't tell the difference between worthless startups and revolutionary tech giants. In that era, Amazon, which now dominates global commerce, was once compared to websites selling pet food and CDs. Investors couldn't see the future yet because they didn't understand the technology's long-term potential. Today, XRP stands in the same position. Most investors still can't differentiate between a meme coin and an enterprise-level liquidity asset built to connect the global financial system. The lack of education, maturity, and awareness in the crypto space makes XRP's current undervaluation completely understandable and also extremely temporary. The analysis also touches on one of the hardest realities for early investors. Being early means being misunderstood. When you figure out the value of an asset before the majority of the market does, you're rewarded later. But you must endure the waiting phase where no one else sees what you see. The script highlights that if the market already understood XRP's full potential, its price would already reflect it. And that's a powerful truth. The discomfort investors feel right now, seeing slow movement, seeing good news ignored, and watching other assets rally randomly, is simply the price of being early in a revolutionary market. The market hasn't caught up yet, but when it does, that's when explosive growth happens. Another layer the script explores is how emotions can easily destroy good investment strategy. People lose focus when they watch small daily price changes instead of the big picture. It's human nature to want instant gratification, especially in crypto, where volatility makes everything feel urgent. But the reminder here is that those who constantly react to price swings are the ones who get shaken out right before the real move begins. The people who zoom out, stay calm, and understand the fundamentals, they're the ones who win in the long run. XRP's current market behavior is teaching that very lesson. The bigger picture remains incredibly bullish, and the more we move toward financial decentralization and cross-border interoperability, the clearer XRP's role becomes. The script also points out a vital concept. Market recognition always lags behind innovation. In simpler terms, by the time the world finally gets it, the best buying opportunities are already gone. That's why long-term conviction matters so much. Ripple is already doing the work that will define the next decade of global finance, partnering with banks, central institutions, and liquidity providers. These efforts don't instantly translate into price, but they lay down the infrastructure that future financial systems will run on. XRP is being positioned as the backbone of digital liquidity, and once this system scales globally, the valuation gap between potential and price will close quickly. So the lesson here is not to mistake silence for stagnation. Just because the market isn't reacting yet doesn't mean progress isn't happening. In fact, the opposite is true. The more time passes without recognition, the more built-up potential XRP gathers. When sentiment finally shifts, the explosion in awareness and valuation can be dramatic. The world moves from confusion to clarity in an instant, and when that happens for XRP, those who have been watching, learning, and holding with understanding will already be far ahead of the curve. This phase is where patience, knowledge, and conviction are tested. Every true innovation in history has gone through this. Disbelief first, understanding later, and acceptance last. XRP is in that second phase now, and what comes next could redefine how digital money flows across borders. As we wrap up this full analysis, the final part of the script shifts towards something very interesting: the anticipation surrounding Ripple's swell and the quiet optimism that something big could be unfolding behind closed doors. The speaker makes it clear that while the broader market may be distracted by fear and confusion, those paying attention to Ripple's real world movements know that progress is happening steadily. Ripple Swell has always been one of the company's most significant events, where announcements about partnerships, integrations, and global collaborations often come to light. Hearing that new deals may already be forming, ones that haven't reached the mainstream media yet, is a powerful reminder that XRP's growth story is still very much alive. This part of the script also carries a subtle message of timing and patience. Big announcements and institutional partnerships take time to mature, and the market doesn't always react instantly. In fact, by the time the news hits the headlines, the groundwork for it has often been laid months or even years earlier. Ripple's approach to building long-term value isn't about hype, it's about structure. The company has spent years creating trust with regulators, banks, and financial institutions, something that no other crypto project has done at this scale. These relationships might not make exciting headlines every week, but they form the foundation of a truly global liquidity network. Once these partnerships turn active, their impact on XRP's utility and demand will be undeniable. Another strong point in this section is the reminder that speculation and confirmation are two different things. People in the crypto market often look for hints and leaks, trying to guess what might happen next. But the script points out that when news becomes tangible, when a major publication like the Wall Street Journal announces that Ripple is officially working with a new global financial partner, that's when the wider market finally starts to see the bigger picture. Those are the moments when sentiment changes rapidly, and investors who were once doubtful start rushing back in. This is why being early, observant, and informed is such a major advantage for XRP holders who understand the fundamentals. The closing message of the script really ties everything together. It's not just about short-term price movements, it's about being part of something transformative. Many people lose money in crypto because they get too focused on the noise, daily fluctuations, small dips, and rumors. But the ones who focus on fundamentals, who can connect the dots between macroeconomic shifts, regulatory progress, and real institutional adoption, are the ones who will truly benefit when the cycle turns. The market is currently unsophisticated, yes, but that won't last forever. Just like in every other financial revolution, understanding eventually catches up to innovation. And when that happens, XRP's unique position as a neutral bridge asset in global finance will be fully recognized. The script ends with a tone of confidence and grounded optimism, a reminder that even though patience is difficult, it's essential for success in this kind of market. The real opportunity comes from holding through uncertainty and believing in the fundamentals when most people don't. The speaker encourages viewers to stay tuned for updates, especially as Ripple Swell continues to unfold, because big shifts often start with small whispers that only the observant catch early. From a professional perspective, this final segment beautifully closes the message that's been building throughout the video. XRP's true strength doesn't lie in momentary price action, but in its long-term role within a rapidly evolving financial landscape. Every delay, every misunderstanding, and every period of market fear is just part of the process of something larger taking shape. When Ripple's ongoing efforts begin to align with broader market awareness, XRP's narrative will transform from being undervalued to being undeniable. So the takeaway for XRP holders and viewers of Hudson XRP News is clear. Stay informed, stay patient, and don't mistake short-term silence for lack of progress. The future is being built right now, even if the market doesn't see it yet. Ripple's continued expansion, combined with the upcoming announcements from Ripple Swell, could easily be the turning point that redefines XRP's position in global finance. For those who've been following closely and holding with conviction, that shift might be much closer than it appears.